Bismillahirrahmanirrahim wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Peace and love, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Travelers Podcast. This is going to be part 2 of a conversation that we started last week. And we broke them up because the breadth of this conversation is such that it would be an injustice to the moment and the moment that we're in and the person that is sharing his time with us. To just rush through it and to just gloss over it. B Plus is an incredible photographer and author. I think I forgot to mention that last week, but he wrote a book called It's Not About a Salary, about West Coast hip hop. Incredible. I mean, all of the greats are talking to him in that book. He's an author, he's a filmmaker, he's a documentarian. He's best known probably for his photography work. But I mean, he's one of the tastemakers. He's a cultural curator. He's somebody that brings people together in the best and most beautiful of ways. Some of the, especially, the real cultural, like positive, dope, underground, independent music, like hip hop music, especially if it had anything to do with the West Coast, there's a good chance that B Plus has something to do with it. And beyond that too. And also if it has something to do with hip hop in Brazil, there's a really good chance that B Plus has something to do with that. So this is somebody that I love dearly. He also did the photos for my new album, for me and Ant's new album that we have coming out on Valentine's Day on the 14th, called Satisfied Soul. This album, Satisfied Soul, is one of the greatest things that we've ever done. Brent Rollins did the design for it, who's an icon on his own, and he'll be on the show very soon, inshallah. But he decided that we wanted B Plus to come and do the photos for this album. So B Plus came and his dad came. B Plus is Brian. And so they both came and they spent almost a week in Istanbul, just super early mornings trying to catch the magic hour at that time, super late nights, walking all over the place. I had this guy, I'm so used to walking up and down these hills that I forget that not everybody's used to that. Plus, he's a big guy and he's carrying a big backpack and he's got this colorful kufi on and things like that. So there's a lot to talk to B Plus about. But the reason that we wanted to slow it down, break this up, make it 2 episodes, is that this conversation was happening with a man who grew up in Ireland and then moved in his adult life and has spent his entire adult life in LA as a city that he loves, and not the Hollywood part of LA, but like the real cultural, artistic, creator community of LA. That's what he's part of, and that's what he represents, and that's what he documents, and that's what he contributes to. And so, to talk to somebody that's from that community in this moment, while we were talking, I mean, you hear him coughing and clearing his throat, you hear helicopters and airplanes and sirens and all type of stuff, because he's really in the moment. There's a different type of presence that a person has. And so for him to not say, yo, I can't do this right now. Like, let me get this thing straightened out. Let me wait till there's not a fire, raging down the block and I might have to evacuate. Give me a couple weeks. He would have been completely within his right to do that. But he's like, no, let's talk right now. So I got on the call with him with all these questions, and then we started talking. I realized, like, oh no, brother Ali, you got to throw your questions out. You're sitting with a person who's really going through something and is part of a community going through something. So that's why we wanted to slow it down, take our time, and really let this conversation evolve. Such an honor and a blessing. Shout out to Zakat Foundation, ZAKAT.org. Zakat.org is how you find them on line, on the interwebs. So you can go to their thing. You click on the thing where the clicking is. And once you start clicking, you'll see a clicky thing where you can give some money to some people who don't have clicky things. There's a lot of people suffering all over the world for all different reasons. In this time where everybody's arguing about everything, there's one thing that you can't argue about. If you and your children are hungry and somebody donates the money that allows some food to fill your stomachs, you have changed the world for a person. And you can say that doesn't matter, and you can feel as hopeless as you want. But if you've ever been hungry and somebody gives you the $5 that puts food in your stomach, you know that person. So the helping one person is as meaningful as a human being is as an individual. And a human being, an individual, is priceless, is invaluable. So what you give versus what you receive in terms of the impact that you make in the world, it's like, yeah, arguing with your relatives over Thanksgiving might not really make a difference. Who knows? We can argue about what voting does. We can argue about all this stuff. Go ahead, have your arguments. But while you're doing that, put $5 in Zakat Foundation, put a meal in somebody's stomach today. because it's that real. Put $50 on it and take care of an orphan, somebody whose parents died. You know what I'm saying? You arguing with your parents. There's people that don't have their parents. My parents died young. I wouldn't call myself an orphan because I was a grown man, but golly, this is very real stuff that you can do. So if you're feeling hopeless and you're feeling like, man, I don't know what to do, hit up zakat.org, zakat.org. You don't have to be Muslim to give them money, because they don't only help Muslims, and they are Muslim, and they're doing that because we believe that this is our duty, our obligation, our joy, our honor to be able to do. But also they're not forcing people to convert to Islam. It's not like I'm saying there are some people that do that in all religions and in all ideologies. They dangle something in front of you. They're like, want this sandwich? Just repeat after me. You know what I'm saying? It's not that. So it's a beautiful thing. So much love to Zakat Foundation. Hit them up, support what they do, and enjoy this conversation with the great, legendary Brian Cross, B+ on the Travelers Podcast.
Weirdly, given everything that's happening, especially after 2020, the moment, the Gaza moment on many levels was profoundly dark and profoundly challenging and profoundly tragic. And just to see people that you feel like, facing their first absolutely catastrophic disappointment, that there's nothing, that kind of helplessness that hits people. But I have to be honest, for me, it was underwritten by a kind of optimism also, in the sense that to see kids that I know as the good kids or the nerds at my university doing risky behavior, quote unquote. There was something really genuine and something really kind of inspiring about that. Actually, it made me feel alive a little bit, and I was very, very, very happy to be a part of it. I mean, the main day, the day that they sent the cops with rifles onto our campus, I wasn't there. I was in LA, but I was following it online, and it's kind of amazing how all that stuff went down out here. How they facilitated kind of right-wing wackos to come on campuses and harass kids, and, gaslight kids into thinking they're doing things that are dangerous when they're basically camping on the grass in front of the library and bothering nobody. And they would have prayer in the morning and reading groups and prayer in the evening. And that's dangerous? Like what? And so everything is so well thought through in the way that only organizer kids can do. And then to see, them be treated like as if what they're doing is wrong, what they're doing is inciting violence. And then they send a bunch of thugs in to start fights with them, so that gives them an excuse to bring cops with rifles onto the campus, so they can put cops with rifles on top of the library and the health center because the kids are dangerous when there was no weapons found. It was like every day they had a schedule. If you're on the email list, you get it. And it's like, start the day at 6 a.m. with prayer. The kind of life I imagine, that we aspire to live in our best selves, and they're out there on the grass doing it in the cold. And you're like, they're the enemy?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Because of their love and care for the well-being and freedom and just human dignity of others.
Yeah.
8,000 miles away.
Yeah. That's the problem.
And that was the thing that for me was like, okay, so youth hasn't taken a hit. Youth still has the role that it has. You know what I mean? That those that are like coming into like a young adult consciousness are seeing the world through new eyes and are re-upping on the fact that like, no, this is crazy. This doesn't have to be like this. And like, I'm not interested in joining your society if this is what it's going to be. You know what I mean? Like that part is still undefeated.
I mean, I do believe that this industry has gone about, it isn't random the way that certain people's careers thrive and other people's careers doesn't thrive.
Absolutely.
I don't believe that it's random at all. I do believe that they find this a threat. You know what I mean? There are real reasons why people like Yassine don't get invited to the party in the way that they would have. And I mean, obviously, in his case, it's okay. He's built another world that he's able to exist in.
He prepared himself for it.
He prepared himself for that.
Yeah, he knew that would be the reality, and he was happy to live out. I mean, honestly, there are those in that world that beg him to come and be part of the party.
Right.
And he's he's like, man, I know what comes with that, and I'd rather be a free artist and human and person. Yeah. And
I mean, in my own way, I mean, it's kind of the path I chose as well. Like there's been moments when I decided I didn't want to be part of the party, so to speak, I think I present very much like that anyway, like I Eric and I are very much, you know what I mean? Like I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I'm not out here like, finding my life's work isn't about finding the right arse to lick. You know what I mean? Like I give people their respect and their dues or whatever, but like, I don't know, there's a certain kind of demeanor and kind of way that you present where folks know, it doesn't really work that way for me, which I've never, I'm not out here belly aching about the money I could have taken from Nike or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, I'm happy to not have taken it. I'm happy to be able to tell the story and say I survived. I think it's important, actually.
Yes.
We all walk away from, we all have our, I don't remember how many millions it was that Chappelle walked away from, but we all have our checks that we walked away from because we decided like, nah, my life isn't for sale in the end. You know what I mean? And I have my lines and I adhere to them. And I do tell my students that. Not in a prescriptive way, because I think that's also wrong. I think it's better to say, have your line, figure out where your line is, figure out where you're not happy with, and then live by that. Don't, oh, well, I could do with that money,
Yeah.
live by that,
Yeah.
understand the consequences of that and actually means something. And I think that's very important. And if you do that, it also acts as a kind of protection. I've seen many artists over the years, both musicians and visual artists who've, you ended up with nothing. You ended up what my dad would say, the canary left in the cage.
Hmm.
The carrot is always there, and
Right.
it's always unreachable because that's what the carrot is meant to be,
Yeah.
Whereas I think, there's other measures for this. There's many people that have done this that, whose names won't be remembered. And then there are folks that done it in the time that they did it. Maybe they weren't the belle of the ball and at all the right parties and, you know what I'm saying, at the Met Fashion Gala, but they actually did something to change the culture. I mean,
Man, it's a trip. Dr. West always says, never forget Brother Ali, that because we were close in a time when there's somebody who was really inspired by me and my friends that became very successful and never mentioned us and all kind of stuff. And he
yeah.
said, man, never forget that Curtis Mayfield doesn't have any Grammys and Milli Vanilli has two.
Yeah. Facts.
We've been making music for a long time, and it's a beautiful thing to be able to do it at all. But the greatest thing of all is to still be inspired. And we got this new album coming called Satisfied Soul. That's how me and B Plus connected. He came to Istanbul to shoot the photos for this album. To have an iconic person come and shoot these photos means a lot, but that's how we feel about this body of work. Brent Rollins, who designed, Boys in the Hood and designed, dude, I could go down to, both of these individuals are incredible and they're handling the visual presentation of this project because that's how we feel about it. Me and Ant just did a tour together and every night when the songs would come on, I was just saying, new classics, new classics. That's how we feel about our music. And the fact that we still feel that way legitimately is such a blessing. And it's great to be able to share it with you. Go to brotherali.com and you'll be able to see all the different variants. We're partnering with Mellow Music, who is an incredible independent label that does it for, the same reasons and intentions that we do. And they just, man, they let Brent Rollins do Brent Rollins in terms of the texture and the colors and all of this stuff, man. The vinyl package is incredible. I can't wait to hold it in my hand and to especially feel it. Like it's such a tactile, texturous kind of thing. Super ill, man. Really beautiful. I'm just so excited that like at this phase in my career, I get to still be this passionate about what I do and to not have to, just be still out here going through the motions because I need the money. We'll see if we make our money back. I actually put a lot of our own money into this thing because of the way that we feel about it. And it's a beautiful thing. So go to brotherali.com, sign the mailing list. The best thing you can do for independent artists is sign their mailing list so we don't have to rely on social media. We can just reach out to you whenever we want to, whenever we got something to share with you. You can always delete an email. It's no big deal. You know what I'm saying? But sign that mailing list, get that pre-order. We also have a caravan. This caravan is amazing where, the people that support us, like a Patreon, But there are different levels. At the upper level of the caravan, we have people who are a genuine community. These people, most of the stuff that we do, we're able to give them for free. But then, we communicate on a Slack channel. We leave each other voice notes all throughout the week. We have meetups online. And these people, after years of being in this community together, actually support each other in life. These people travel together. These people know each other's families, met each other's children from across the country and around the world. I mean, it is amazing. And this is the group of people that kept me going last year when I was talking too much about Palestine, so I couldn't get a paid gig. And we put an album out last year called Love and Service that I love to death, but we didn't make our money back on it. We actually survived over the year because of y'all that listen to this podcast and the caravan. I'm convinced, because social media, all that stuff. But we survived because of this. If you're part of that, if you're part of the caravan, if you're part of this, you really are keeping us going. And that is the absolute undisputed truth. So head to brotherali.com and do all of that. We appreciate you. We love you. Back to the episode. Yeah, and it's a trip. You think about I was there around Doom. I was on the tour when Food came out.
Right.
And I saw what they just did for him at Flognaw, and it made me really happy. But I know that energy wasn't there when Doom was alive. I know that the people who knew about Doom understood. The people in his audience knew. Mm-hmm. And that's actually where I met Yassine. I was on tour with Doom, and Yassine was the guy, the dude there that was like, y'all don't understand. This is the most amazing, incredible. And Doom was in so much in Doom world that he wasn't even recognizing Yassine. And so I met him by being like, yo, he just gets like this when he's on stage. You know what I mean? Or when he gets off stage, he just jumps in the cab and bounces. It doesn't matter who's here. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's not dissing you, I promise. That's how we met each other. And I was there around Sean Price, and I was there around Idea, and I was there around, several people. And you talk to people that were there with Malcolm X, and you talk to people that were, all of these amazing people. It's very rare that they actually live to see the impact that they make, and that people actually recognize it when they're right there, alive and well, and doing their thing. It's usually long after people are out of that situation where they're no longer afraid of what it means to align themselves with someone that's doing something that true and that risky.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's it's not a risk now to say Muhammad Ali was right about Vietnam. You know what I'm saying? There's no risk in that now. You know what I'm saying? But what's the Vietnam of our time? And where's the Muhammad Ali?
It's not Bono. I'll say that.
Man, it's a beautiful confirmation, actually. Every now and then, something so crazy will happen in life. There's something almost satisfying about getting these confirmations. Because, we walk around thinking like this. You know what I mean? We walk around with this as our reality, and people telling us that we're making it up, and that we're just extreme, and that and then every now and then there'll be some sort of confirmation that no, you're not crazy, it's really happening. It's a brief pause in the gaslighting of the zeitgeist, you know what I mean? Where it's no, you're right. There's absolutely all this stuff that you're talking about. You might not, you're filling in some details that you don't have available to you. All of us, we've got to piece together some things, but the deep underlying current is there. I want to make sure that we at least talk about our time in Istanbul, because this might be the place that gets, So I know when I first heard about you, but I'm curious to know, and we have a number of mutual friends and things like that. But when did me and my circle of artists enter your consciousness, and what was that?
I have to say it must be the early 2000s, and maybe it would be in the kind of interface that existed between the Evs and folks like that from out here, and then the folks in your world. And I remember kind of being, damn, they kind of doing big things out there. It was word? They got a scene like that? And then it was very much a part of then Mer's another one of them great connectors, man. One of the greatest ever. You know what I mean? Beautiful.
Somebody that deeply understands culture. Merce doesn't go to any place without finding people and connecting with people and talk. And then when he goes back there again, he talks to those people again and stays in touch with them and knows their moms. And man, Merce is the real thing.
Real thing. Yes. Great dude. And so it would have been like that. But as far as the how the specifics of this particular meeting happened was a very fun night where a number of us DJ'd on this rooftop hotel in Hollywood, very unmochila thing, and nobody came. I don't know. It was something Eric was involved in. He asked me, "Will I play?" I was sure, for sure, I'll play. And so we came, and just literally nobody. Like it was just us. It was like 5 or 6 of us, and then Brent came, and and he was out here for whatever reason or whatever. And so, yeah, man, let's hang out, whatever. And so when we were getting ready to go back from Hollywood back to Highland Park, Brent was like, "Yo, roll with me." Okay. So we sat in the car. He was like, "Yo, you ever been to Istanbul?" I was like, "Nah, man, but damn, man." When I first met my wife, Dalma, she had spent a month there, and I remember she came back with all these trinkets, and she came straight. I had never, I mean, I had met her, but we had never really hung out, and she came to my house to stay at my house because she had done a song on this Madlib record, and we'd kind of become friends. This Madlib record I helped with, that was part of the Brazilian time thing, and she had come from Istanbul, and she was just, that kind of fresh glow of someplace that really blew your mind. That was just like, oh my god. And she had a bicycle, and she was just riding around the city and crossing the river and eating amazing food and buying amazing clothes. And so I remember, and so from then I was just like, man, that's just automatically goes on my list of, and obviously historically, I mean, this is a very, very, very important place. I mean, this is really a proper crossroads of the world. I mean, this is where, you know, um, and so, so then Brent drops the thing, and I was just like, I was kind of, it's like one of those things like when you're out and you're amongst friends, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Like, there's always that dude like, "Yo, man, I want you to go to, and I was treating it a bit like that, like, oh, this isn't going to happen. I mean? This is going to happen until whatever. We talk about money, or this isn't going to happen until we try to schedule it, or this isn't going to happen until whatever. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. All right, Brent. But in fairness, what I would say is the right decision that you made to begin with is, in fairness, I'll dig my way out of a 10 feet of sewage to make a project with Brent Rollins, man. Brent Rollins I love Brent, man. He's a very sensitive, very, very, very good designer who just, no project is not special. He just doesn't do things unless he can do it to the fullest. And he doesn't do, let me just dial it in. That's not him. He's, if he's going to do it, it's going to fold outs and print overs and die cut and it's like, and so for us in our world, that's, if you sign up for something like that, you're just like, I feel like, yeah, I'm still part of the A team. Things are good. You know what I mean? Like, like somebody you really admire,
Yeah,
asks you to jump on a beat. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh man, hell yeah, I'm gonna get on that. Best believe it. I'll dig my fight off.
I asked Brent Rollins for a logo, like for years, just because I'm like, man, I just want to do something with him.
Yeah.
And then the whole conversation about this started with him doing the logo. And he's like, yeah, I made one that's like a stencil, kind of like old school for the revolutionary side of you. And then I did one that's like this kind of like Chinese looking kind of thing for like the Eastern influence thing. And he's like, I don't know, they're both almost dope. He's like, the brother from this one is cool, and the Ali from this one is cool, but there's not one that's. He's like, hold on. So we're like, he's sharing his screen, and he just pulls the stencil brother and the like Eastern looking Ali, and we were just like, yo, and he's like, okay, all right, hold on, we got something. You know what I mean? Like, you just saw like this thing go off, and he's like,
yeah,
are you making an album right now? And I'm like, yes, I am. Yeah.
He literally told me the story. Like, I was doing something for him, and I was trying to do this one thing, and so he's giving me this like 15-minute, 20-minute explanation of how he ended up with the logo. I haven't seen anything. He hasn't asked me if I want to go to Istanbul or anything yet. He just asked me, have I ever been there? And then he starts telling me this story. And then, of course, by the time we get to Highland Park, he's just like, yeah, man. So I was thinking, maybe you should go there. And I was like, Okay, I mean, you take that as a yes, bro. You know what I mean? Like whatever it takes. Oh, it's the only thing that bummed me out is I wish he could have come. It would have been
Man, yeah.
great. It would have been
Yeah.
great. But we'll make that happen again. I mean, what I would say is like the beautiful part of actually getting to go to Istanbul and going to visit you and having the absolute pleasure of being taken around by a man who can barely see a foot in front of his face, but who has the sensitivity and like my dad was just like, oh man, my dad loves you. But so
Oh,
so
I
I
love him
invited my
too.
dad. Invite my dad was, I was telling him I was going. He was like, really, huh? And he had this whole thing about it's like the Blue Mosque, it was like his bucket list place, And I always wanted to go there. I don't know why you never. And you're going to be there. And so I think I'll go. But of course, we had no idea how it's going to work out. Yeah, I mean that's a once in a lifetime experience for me, man. And I mean, I've been living out of Ireland for like 30 years, and me and my pops, how we had our ups and downs or whatever, but like it was a very great and unique experience to be able to, that day we were going to shoot and we pull with this crazy old car onto the ferry and we turn around and there he is behind us, completely
Yeah.
unexpected.
So yeah, so your dad, like, so we get no last minute. So I had booked you at Airbnb
Yeah.
that I felt okay about. There's nothing fly in my neighborhood. There just isn't. And I
No, it
really
was
wanted
fine.
you.
It was
Well,
fine.
I mean, I wanted you to be in a nice place, but I also wanted you to be, I know you didn't want to be in the touristy thing. Like there
No,
is a
no.
W hotel on the European side.
Oh, hell
I'm like,
no.
no, he's going to hate that. Like
I
he
could be
wants
in
to
a
be in the
W hotel
neighborhood.
anywhere though. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
I'm not trying to do that.
No, I'm yeah, like Brian wants to be in the neighborhood. So we booked this thing and but then yeah, that one didn't I was trying to get a separate one for your dad so I couldn't there. And so I got another one that was even less like you guys were in like a basement thing and his had one door, yours had another. There's like rickety
Yeah.
staircases that are like, you know what I mean? The AC goes on, but it doesn't turn off. And it's like crazy cat lady outside and the whole thing. And then your dad pulls up and he hops out of the van and he's like fully like he doesn't have a suit on, but he's dressed like in the summer in Istanbul, like very formal. Like he just looks like a distinguished, like this is Mr. Richard Cross. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Like it was so dope, man. And
Ricardo.
to be able to hang out with him and yeah, and then the one day that he's like, I'm gonna venture out on my own. I'm gonna find the Blue Mosque. I'm going to the watch store.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then we end up running into him. So we had the idea from with Brent that like, okay, we've got this like this logo, it all came from the logo. So like we got this very classic kind of thing along with a very Eastern thing, which is perfect for me. It's perfect for Istanbul. It's perfect for, my kind of old school revolutionary hip hop sensibilities, but also being here because trying to be a dedicated Muslim and just the cultures coming together and stuff. So he's like, yeah, what about an old school car in front of a bugged out mosque? I'm like, okay, all right. So then the wheels start turning, you know what I mean? So we rent this car. We rent this like beautiful old car. We've got a few ideas of like where to shoot, but Brent found a place that was it's supposed to be an hour and 20 minutes away,
Yeah.
but it just so happened to be that the holiday, like the Eid holiday, was a few days away. And so we tried to drive out to the
Oh
place.
man.
And I mean, we were just baking in traffic in this old
I
school
mean, you don't
black.
realize those old school cars are everything is solid metal. The dash was solid metal, and the car is black, and everything in the interior is black, and it's boiling, like boiling. I was like,
And I'm
oh
dressed in all in black with I had on a gabardine wool jacket and
oh, that's right.
a
Oh my
fur
god.
hat, like all black. Like I'm dressed in all black.
Oh yeah, this was
Yeah, man, we
too
melted,
crazy.
and the car ended up. So I mean, first of all, like we're trying to get on the highway, and because this is the holiday of the slaughter, like there's a shepherd with
Oh
sheep in
man.
the middle of a city in the middle of
Yeah.
a highway.
Yeah.
So then finally the car overheats and breaks down.
Yeah.
We end up taking an
Big
Uber to go to that
explosive
mosque.
sound. Took the Uber. Some of Eric's favorite photos from that shooter were made that day at that mosque. What a spectacular place! What a just it was very very beautiful, very austere, very modern, but in a kind of really unexpected kind of way. It was just a
Mhm.
beautiful piece of architecture. But I used to say like you could drop your camera in Detroit and take a picture of a musician, but I think you could drop your camera in, your camera could fall off your shoulder in Istanbul, and you would have took a photo of an amazing mosque. In
Yeah.
fairness, it's like everywhere, like every corner, and the fountains. That's the other
Yeah.
thing that really stuck in my mind: the fountains, and even the philosophy of the fountain. The philosophy of like, don't remember me with some. The Brits are just ugly. But they would build these kind of useless plinths around Ireland, even during the famine. They'd make the local people build them these monuments to how great they were. They call them follies, is what they call them. And I mean, if you think about it, like that's really what they are, is
Crazy.
follies.
Yeah.
Whereas, in Istanbul, the cats were like, nah, dude, let's build me a fountain. Make somewhere where
Yeah.
people can drink water and people can
Build a
wash
fountain.
themselves.
Yeah, man. It's like these big, like it's a wall basically. But when
Hmm.
they had running water, but people didn't have it in their homes. This is in like the early 1900s, late 1800s. They built these like it would be a fountain with this tall wall, and then Quranic verses and things like that written on it, and everybody can come. And then usually when the person died, they'd be buried there with the idea that I want to provide water for the neighborhood, forever. And yeah, man, it's a trip because when they had their big secular revolution here, they took down Arabic out of as many places as they possibly could, but they left it up in the mosque and they left it up in those fountains. Like they didn't touch those.
Wow.
And so, yeah,
Right.
most of the people so you can go there, you get shade, you get some inspiration, you literally, and water, and people still use them to this day.
Oh
Like
yeah, of course.
everybody's,
Yeah, yeah.
like there's running water everywhere, but I mean, everywhere you go, people are using them.
Yep.
Yeah, I just found out that there's a museum exhibition of James Baldwin's time here in Istanbul,
Oh
and it's
wow.
called Turkey Saved My Life or Istanbul Saved My Life. And I've seen photos of him sitting at a big fountain that's like like in the center of my neighborhood. And I'm just
Oh
like,
wow.
damn, like man, James Baldwin sat here and smoked a cigarette and like, you know what I
Had
mean?
a
Just
thought. Yeah, amazing.
yeah, yeah,
No, I mean, you definitely could feel it. The other thing I remember distinctly, and I'd never heard anybody ever say it to me before, but I thought it was such a beautiful idea, which is it's holier to put a spoon of food in the mouth of a hungry man than it is to build a mosque. And I was just like, well, that's it. You can call it whatever you like, but whatever religion that is, that's what I believe in. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like that's about as poetic and straightforward a way of saying it as anything. Like
That's Abdul Qadir al Jailani. He said if God gave me the entirety of like all of the wealth in the world, I would convert it all to food and just feed the people of the world with it. So
he didn't
so
even read
then
Karl Marx.
yeah, exactly. So then it's like, okay, we're this was one of the last days where the car breaks down. And then, it's kind of like, well, man, we could try to catch something tomorrow morning. I mean, you were flying out that day and we did not
That's true.
have the cover. I mean, we had cool stuff from around the city, but there was no cover.
Yeah,
There's no cover shot. And so we're sitting at, just a restaurant by the mosque that and we're trying to figure out, like, can we get an Uber to take us the 2 hours back to the neighborhood where we're actually
yeah.
staying? And shout out to our brother JJ who was with us and helping
JJ
out.
is great. And
And
shout out
so,
to the brother from the car, the cat with the car, man, was
yes,
such
man,
an
me,
amazing guy.
yeah, like this man's entire life is the fact that he's got these three old school cars. I mean, Turkey is a country that, people really had a strong middle class kind of life, and they've lost it all in the last 6, 7 years. Like, I mean, everybody that had something to retire with, it's just gone now because of inflation and all this other kind
Yeah,
of stuff. So he's got these three cars and he uses them for weddings and people shoot videos in them and take pictures in them and all this kind of stuff. But he loves these cars.
yeah,
Like to him, like the history of them and, you know, what they represent and all that stuff. And so we're sitting there talking at dinner and like, all right, we basically just have tomorrow morning. And then the way that you were describing Brent's vision of like some sort of mosque that brings together the majesty of the old stuff along with something creative and more modern. It
yeah.
just snapped in my head. There's a mosque for Uskudar University in my neighborhood that my kids call the Lego Masjid. because it looks like it's built out of Legos, and it's got like this thing in the middle that looks like a spiraling universe kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, dope, that's what's up. But I mean, no permit. We went out there at 4 a.m. And also the black car broke down again. We were trying to use the black car, it broke
Yeah.
down again. So it's
Yeah.
like, man, just bring the red car. Like we got to shoot something. So he brings the red car. I mean, parked it in traffic in the middle of a major thoroughfare. I mean, there were like garbage trucks
Yeah.
trying to go around us. And, and the police rolled up and were like, hey, what are y'all doing? And we're like, oh, we're almost done. And it's like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
They just left. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, man, it was such a snapshot of like what life is like here. And we ended up, getting
very,
that
very
shot.
nice what he did with it, man. I'm really pleased. I only saw it recently, and I was absolutely. I mean, but I knew. He's really, he's very rare breed, really, of designers. I have to be honest. I mean, I've worked with a lot of cats, and there's a handful that I really, really respect, and he's definitely in that handful, if not top of it.
Well,
He's
both of
really-
y'all, man, the ability to communicate feeling and meaning that's beyond the particular thing that you're looking at in that visual medium. Especially for me, because like you said, I can't really see. So like I can't see everything. And so the fact that like your photos have just meant so much to me and to so many people, you know what I mean? And the films too. And then also like I just showed our daughter is 16 and we just showed our Boys in the Hood the other day.
Wow.
And like me and my wife were trying to explain to her like what this means, and she was saying that there's like a resurgence. So like Gen X is like, or Gen Z is wearing the Boys in the Hood t-shirts. Like that
Oh, yeah.
that logo that Brent designed is like fully back. And she's like, oh yeah, I keep seeing this, but I didn't know what it was. And then there's so many lines in the movie that she's like, that's where this is from? Because she hears me and my wife say them all the time. You know what I mean? But just like something about that specific, like that logo, you know what I mean? Along with so many other things, it's like, man, the ability to like really encapsulate so much meaning. So when he came on, he said, look, man, I'm not for hire. I'm going to work with what your budget is. I'm doing this because I believe in what you guys are doing and what this is. I'm going to work with whatever amount of money. But the one thing that I ask more than money is you have to let me do the entire package. The way it feels, and he's like, I'm really into texture. So that's where the money ended up coming out. It didn't go in his pocket. It went into manufacturing of this doggone vinyl. Like, man, we're going to have to sell a lot of vinyl to break even on the manufacturing from him being like, I want this to feel like a turtle shell. And I want this to be like the tactile experience of the whole thing is just, but
but it's going to be something that you'll treasure. Whoever has it will treasure this for the rest of their life, and it will occupy a unique place in their collection because there'll be nothing else like it, and that's part of the beauty of what Brent brings to the table. Really, is very special.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when we talked about photos, I did bring your name up, but as soon as I said your name, he was like, yes, it has to be him. Like it can't be anybody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we go back. I mean, that's for sure. Like we're OG rap pages as me and Brent. The famous Goody Mob covers, the ODB covers, the Cozy Rap covers, the Roots covers. In fact, the Roots cover, if you look at it, it's a kind of a famous one where they're all looking up and there's somebody has jumped off the building and landed in front of them, and that's Brent. And that was
crazy. I didn't know that. I know exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's him on the ground, and it was funny because it was his last issue. He was moving on. He was going to move to New York and start working full time for Ego Trip. And Brent, in Brent, you're not even getting. You're getting a second generation cat. Like his dad did the same thing. He's somebody who came up, from Dot. He was watching his pops doing, something that I didn't even know was a gig. You know what I mean? And he's second generation. He's somebody I met his dad too, an amazing person, and obviously, this isn't the way to be. If your measure is how fat your bank account looks, this isn't the way to do it.
Right.
I mean, it's like I say, it's rare to meet somebody who could say that's an artist, and that's an artist. That's somebody.
And it's crazy because like when those magazines that you're talking about that you all worked on, there was something about the fact that like those were existing at the same time as like especially a little bit later. There started being like Vibe and all these other kind of things that were very glossy and very, and like I wouldn't have been able to put it in words at that time, but it really symbolized to me like, this thing is being presented in a way that I don't recognize. Like this glossy, you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like there's humanity in it. It's the way that the music started to sound and the way that like kind of this divergent, this like splitting of ways that we're talking about. Whereas the stuff that you guys worked on, I didn't know it at the time to be able to say it in words, but like there's something about that these images are very beautiful, but they're also very raw. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're really seeing, and because of the rawness, the beauty is, it's true. It's just like all these like weird people that we meet along the way. You know what I mean? Like we
Yeah.
just meet so many dynamic, weird people that like if someone tells us a bad story about somebody, it's like, that might be true. But you have to know the whole person. You got to know the
Yeah.
whole,
Yeah.
like these like really beautiful, quirky individuals that some of them do look like movie stars. Like Q-Tip just happens to look like a movie star.
For sure.
But he's every bit as quirky and weird as Doom. You know
No,
what
for
I'm
sure.
saying? It's just that they just come in a different package.
Yeah.
And there's something about the way that you're able to photograph people and scenes, that shows all of that. That shows like it's your heart is really direct is determining the way that turns out because you're seeing a person in a way that it is very beautiful, but it's beautiful with all of the things that somebody else might try to edit out or might try to gloss over. But just
Right.
like, no, like leave the whole dude in.
Yeah.
Like we're not gonna, you know what I mean? We're not gonna try to like flip this thing to look. I remember you were saying, man, wear clothes that you're comfortable in. Like
Oh no, for
don't,
sure. Yeah. No,
you,
I hate that. I
no
used to. I
photo
mean,
shoot fresh. Like don't pop a tag off something and then try to wear it to the thing. You're gonna be uncomfortable.
you're gonna be uncomfortable. It's not gonna look like it fits you properly. I'll be honest with you. Look, my measure is this. I grew up in a country that was the men that lived in the countryside had two suits. They
Uh,
wore the suit they wore all day, all week, and then they had the one suit that they wore of a Sunday to go to church.
yeah,
And that suit, they might have that suit for 2 years. They might have had a bad run. They might have that suit for 5 years. But it looked, my father would always say, it looked like if you took the suit off him, it would stand up and walk away by itself. You know what I mean? Like the suit was literally, and I don't mean it was tailored to fit him. It was the suit. Eventually, the materials start to take your shape because you've worn it that much. And to
yeah,
me, there's a kind of glamour in that. There's a kind of glamour in the being comfortable enough in yourself to where you can rock. You know what I mean? I try. You know what I mean? Whatever. That's how I live too. But what's trippy to me and vibe, I think, is a very it's a you kind of hit the nail on the head there in the sense that vibe is the beginning really
mm,
of the interface between the music we loved and the luxury goods economy. And I mean luxury goods meaning, yeah, the cars, yeah, the fashion. Or if you go back to the previous iteration, like of Golden Age, like, Vibe comes like in the mid 90s. Eric B. and Rakim is Dapper Dan. It's
right,
the neighborhood version of luxury
yes,
goods. It's not the real Gucci or
that's
Hermes.
right,
It's
yeah,
Dapper Dan. And okay, you got the fly whip. You know what I mean? All cats always had fly whips, but it was like it wasn't like you had done a deal with the company and you were getting
right.
the beta version of the something something something. It
Yeah.
was like,
I mean, and those like Suzuki Jeeps and stuff like that, that was not the
yeah,
most expensive car on the market at the
no, it
time,
was how
but
you
they
rocked it.
made it fly. They flipped
Yeah,
it. They flipped
yeah.
it. They made it fly. They made it what it is.
And somehow that cachet was seen at a certain moment,
Mm,
whether it was Tommy Hilfiger or later some of the bigger luxury brands, the Louis V or whatever. And it was interesting. I directed music videos in that period, not for long, because what happened was music videos became like shopping lists. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, he mentions Hennessy in the first verse. You gotta have Hennessy. He mentions this, like right down to the speakers, the shoes, the da da da. It's a shopping list. And to me, I was kind of like I start to feel uncomfortable because I always knew that there's a interesting relationship between the notion of flyness and the notion of kind of hyper commodification, but somehow the needle moved, and Vibe was really the bridge for that because Vibe, was the first time where you would have real fashion, like real luxury goods, in editorial next to the story about Grand Puba, or
yeah.
next to the story about this new rapper called Yassine Bey, or this new producer or group called Slum Village. And then there's the next thing is somebody rocking a $20,000 dress. It changed. The culture changed, and we we obviously we talk about the jiggy, as a kind of, and that's certainly a part of it, and Diddy certainly was a part of it. But Vibe for me was kind of the, and I worked for Vibe. I mean, George
Yeah.
Pitts, the photo editor at Vibe, hired me a lot, and we would always have these kind of interesting conversations. I don't know, he was necessarily my biggest fan, but he recognized the work, which I always was happy about. I remember actually, man, it's kind of crazy now that I think of it, but I remember being in Japan, I think in 1999 or 1998, and being interviewed on a Japanese radio station and having an argument with Clark Kent, of all people,
Hmm.
rest in peace, about the meaning of underground. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's like the woman introduced me and she was like, his company's called Mochilla, and Mochilla is the word for backpack. And he recognized himself as in them days, we were like, oh, he affiliates himself with underground rap. He's a backpack rapper. And then Clark Kent, of course, is on some, oh, hell no. Like, we fly. We out here going big, popping bottles. And it was just interesting to see, how it all come around in the end. Somehow it all come around. Somehow it's undeniable. You can't deny Yassine Bey. You can't deny Dilla. You can't deny Doom. And not that they weren't fly, and not that they weren't had their own relationships with sort of, but they weren't in. To me, it wasn't part of. We weren't part of some kind of hyper commodification situation, and I feel like that's Vibe represented that to me in a way that I never understood. I mean, I also spent a lot of years belly aching over the role that Vibe played in escalating, really, the so-called beef or the
Yeah.
beef that existed between the East Coast and West Coast. I lived through that. I lived through that working on both coasts. And amongst cats that were making records that weren't multi-platinum, there might have been there was always an antagonism. From when I
Yeah.
first worked out here, people out here were like, "Yeah, man, if you want to get into the source, you gotta go change your zip code. You got
Right.
better go out live out there.
Yeah.
You better start rapping like them. We never get love out here." And it was kind of, and Rap Pages, part of what was interesting about Rap Pages really in that era was, it was a fact that if our sales numbers went down, all we would do was put somebody from NWA on the cover, and it would
Mm.
automatically go back up 20%.
Yeah.
I mean, that
Yeah.
was a
Rap
fact.
Pages and Murder Dog. There were like certain ones that were like not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We weren't caught up in that whole the East Coast politics or whatever, but there was something profoundly changed in that moment. Vibe, it was really good in many respects. It was very mainstream in many respects. It brought the music into a new place. It seemed like the appropriate magazine given the kind of numbers that Death Row and Bad Boy were doing and this
Yeah.
kind of new moment. But it came with a price. And
Hmm.
it's when I started to develop a different kind of criticality in regards to hip hop itself. I started to understand that, like, yeah, I don't need to be photographing everybody. I don't need to be photographing the most important or the most in the eyes of the sort of mainstream public, the most important or the person with the most numbers. I just need to trust myself. What, like exactly what Brent said. I want to do this because I believe in what you're doing, and I feel like I'm the right person to be doing it. And it's very gratifying, honestly, to meet people. I remember and I knew Flying Lotus for a long time, but I remember the first time Flying Lotus asked me to do photos for him, and he said it. He said, I know what your name means on my
Hmm.
record.
Hmm.
I know it means that this is a record that you believe in." And I was like, nobody had ever, like, I thought that, but nobody had ever actually said that out loud, that I hadn't
Wow.
laid it out for them first. But he said it. And I
Wow.
was like, I was laughing. I was just like, bro, like, you're laying it on heavy right now. Like, like, you don't need to convince me. I'm down. But like, I'm very happy you said that. That's one of the most meaningful things anybody's ever said to me. It's hard to explain that to kids that are, fresh eyed and bushy tailed and desperate to get a gig, and any kind of money at all means so much. And it's hard to explain to folks that, like, to have dignity and to have some kind of integrity in the work that you do is so important, because what you don't realize is the amount of people that actually are noticing that you don't even realize, and it's
Yes.
helping them, you know.
Yes. Yep.
And even, the day I came to see you at the lodge room, I don't know Reverie, you know what I'm saying? I didn't know her work or whatever, but I just seen how she was just so excited to be able to have a few moments to share with you, and how important it was that you were doing the kind of work that you were doing. Do you know what I mean? That the ministry, you know what I mean? That aspect of it was so important. And I love that. I mean, that's when you kind of go like, yeah, man, we do generate meaning here.
Yeah.
We're not playing, I mean, this is serious. And for sure, obviously for you, it's a very important part of what you do, but it's also a very important part of what I do. I mean, it's
Mhm.
also, I'm not out here trying to help this machine,
One of
basically.
the things that Yasin said is like, man, if they give you money to do something that you don't actually love to do, then the only thing you're getting out of it is that money. And so the only way to feel good about it is to spend the money.
Yeah,
So it's like this,
trust me.
it's like this stupid cycle where like you do
Yeah.
something for the money, then all you got out of it was the money. So you spend the money and then the money's gone. And it's just
Yeah.
like, man, that whole thing was a
Yeah.
complete waste of time.
No, and I'm not gonna lie, the first, few years that I started to see a bit of money, what shocked me about it was I would get to the end of the year and I'd be like, damn, I made more money this year than I had ever made. And I feel so empty right now, man.
Yes.
I feel like
Yes.
there's nothing in the tank. And
Yep.
I would look at cats around me, especially, like, because if money is the measure, there's a lot more cats than me that, you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't need to say names, but there's cats that have really done it. And I would look at them and, and they look at me and they looking at me like, oh, you figured out something. And I'm looking at them like,
Yeah.
damn, you making hella money.
Yeah. They
And I
either
just,
look up to somebody like you or
mm-hmm,
they're deeply intimidated and they cannot
mm-hmm,
be in the room with you.
mm-hmm. I seen both.
I'm a big proponent of therapy. And, the main thing is that therapy isn't what you think it is. If you've never done therapy, you don't know what therapy is. Because if you've seen it on TV, it's not that. Whatever you've seen in a movie, it's not that. Whatever you're anticipating it being, it's not that. I'm married to a therapist, and I still had this idea of what therapy was going to be like. And I didn't do it until, man, I had to move to a different country. I wanted to lose a bunch of weight. I had all this stuff. I had all these like falling outs in my life and all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, okay, now's the time. And it was nothing like I thought. In therapy, you can do everything from deal with a specific relationship. Maybe there's a person that's hard to talk to. You can actually talk to a therapist about it and get it all out. And you can tell that therapist all the just toxic stuff if you need to. You can tell them all the fears if you need to. You can just complain to them if you need to. Because a good therapist is going to hear those complaints and they're going to like let you know that you're being heard, and the frustration and the anger and being invalidated, all that stuff you're feeling is yes. And also, well, what is it about that? And how did this get like that? And what was the thing or like, help me understand that, or walk me through that, or let's unpack this. Just somebody that cares and that actually is listening to you. It's fun just to be listened to. Just to have somebody's undivided damn attention for a little bit is incredible. It's beautiful. It's dope. But also you can talk through plans with your therapist. It doesn't have to be like when I was 8 years old, it doesn't have to be that. You can just be like, okay, this year I'm trying to do this and this and this. Okay, well, and they'll start asking you questions where you just start thinking about stuff and they don't answer the questions for you. And you're not going to come out of therapy like, man, this person's trying to convince me that I'm something that I know I'm not. It's not that. They're not trying to manipulate you. It's just a space for you to examine you with a person that is just dedicated to that. And if you've never tried it, then you're a punk. I don't mean that. I'm just saying if you never tried it, I think that you deserve a chance. And I understand being standoffish about it. But give it a try. I'm saying, so go to betterhelp.com. If you listen to any kind of podcast, you know all about BetterHelp. BetterHelp, not Better Health. It's betterhelp.com/travelers. If you do that, they give us money. And then also you get a discount and you get therapy. And a therapist who's trained in their field gets to work. You get to choose your therapist. You get to choose how you connect with them, when you connect with them. You can have your camera on, you can have it off, and just do the phone. You can text with them when you want to. You can change your therapist if you're not feeling them. I mean, you're really in control. And, it's a beautiful thing. And sometimes you live in places where they don't have every type of therapist. So you have access to all of these different types of therapists with all kind of different specialties. BetterHelp.com/travelers. Quit playing games with your own self and jump on that ship.
The most gratifying thing I would say was to reach a point I guess it would have been like the sort of 2004, 2005s, when finally the publishing world started to realize that there was value in these archives. The Martha Coopers, the Jeanette Beckmans, the Jamel Shabazz, the Joe Conzos, and to finally have a chance to meet them cats and to realize that those cats knew who I was. That was
Oh,
really,
yeah.
that
Yeah,
was
I mean, I
really
imagine that's what
crazy
it's like
for
for
me.
me going on tour with Rakim or like, you know what I mean? And they're like,
That's
yo, man, you're out
crazy,
here trying to
bro.
do what you're representing for us. We
Yeah,
love you. And the same way that I
yeah,
would think about Reverie. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
man, you're
yeah,
you're you're keeping it alive. It's so dope. I love it.
yeah, yeah. And like yeah, there's something about that, man. There's something really, So yeah, Vibe was actually a very kind of instructive moment for me, really.
Hmm.
I did the book. I did It's Not About a Salary. Like that's what came out of the whole Cal Arts experiences. I made this book about LA, kind of oral history of hip hop in LA, going back to the kind of jazz days, the black arts days. And so I'd always been, I just can't help myself. I'm just always thinking about, what's the next move? Who should I be paying attention to? What's interesting right now? What should I be critical of? What's annoying me? Like I'm just engaged on that level. I take it very, very seriously. Um, and, you know, the Vibe moment was really a kind of instructive moment in terms of like, yeah, this is taking a very weird turn right now
Hmm.
that I don't quite understand. Like I had a chance to work for Death Row. They were looking for I definitely could have done with the money, um, to be an in-house photographer at Death Row, and I turned it down. I knew a woman who was working over there who was, you'd be great, and I would have been great, but I just was like, nah. You know what I mean? I love Snoop, but this is something. Yeah, well, I mean, I did shoot, and it wasn't like I didn't know what it was like. I knew. I saw the way that it worked. I saw the way that the tribe worked. I saw the way the hierarchies work or whatever, and I was like, nah, I'm not with it. I saw Damien do something once that was the most counterintuitive thing I've ever seen,
Hmm.
and he, I think I might have told you the story, but basically we went on tour with Nas to Europe as Distant Relatives tour, and I was the photographer, videographer on the tour, and we were booked to play in Birmingham. And the previous time that Nas had played in Birmingham, he sold that venue out twice, 2 nights in a row. And the previous time I'd been there with Damien, we had sold it out, and it was chaos. There was just way too many people. So now it's both of them, one night only. And you know the deal, man. Like, there's the fans that are online, and they're the ones that buy the tickets. That's great.
Yeah.
But then
They
there's the
got the
people,
money, the credit card. It's
the
all set
credit
up. They're
card, it
they're
all set
sitting
up.
there waiting for the second they
Yeah,
go on sale. Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? That's why that Kendrick thing with Cash App was so genius. I was just like, this is somebody who knows who needs to be there. So, the people them, they show up, and then they realize not only they can't even be in front, they get kind of jettisoned off to the back of the venue, but there's a lot of cats, and there's a lot of deep cats, man. I mean, it was dangerous out there, and they were upset. So what first started happening was they started trying to, attack the door, try to come into the venue. So we were inside, and it was intense. I mean, it was like, damn, this is a bunch of dudes trying to come up in the venue.
Yeah.
Bunch of Jamaican cats from inner city Birmingham. Not something to
Yes.
be,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's
Yes.
serious.
That's not a game. That is not a joke.
This is serious.
Hmm.
So the security dudes, of course, it's like this is like the military, and those people are the enemy. And so these dudes go off and they come back with German Shepherd dogs, and you know what I'm saying? It's England now, so like there's no guns or nothing, but like, you know what I mean? So this is a kind of escalation. Of course, these cats that are trying to come in the show, they're not phased by that. They keep attacking the door. And we get to this point where like the security come into our room, they call a meeting, and it's this kind of like hyper, bunch of masculine energy, a bunch of muscle bound dudes talking about we're gonna have to cancel this venue, man. This isn't safe back here. There's women, there's people, there's staff here trying to work. We can't have people kicking down the doors, blah 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 blah. These dudes could be armed. We don't know what's about to go down. We've had casualties here before, and they had like there had been a Kanye show there, and there had been some issue where somebody got killed. So it's okay, so it's serious, whatever. Everybody shouting, our security dudes talking. Nas isn't even in the venue yet. Nas is still at the hotel. Nas security team won't even let him leave the hotel. You know what I mean? He's walking distance away, but like he still ain't left the hotel. So it's like, all right, so whatever. So I was shouting back and forth craziness. And then Damien says, hold up. He's like, okay, the man him talk. Okay. And then Damien says, what do people want? What do the people want? And the dude's like, what do you mean? He's like, what do they want? He said, well, they want to come in the show. I said, open the doors. I said, what do you mean open the doors? Open the doors. Let the people come in the show. I said, man, you're talking to some of the worst gangsters and blah, 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 blah. You can't be serious, mate. I said, open the doors, man. Trust the music. And it's true, like inside the room, it's just a vibe. They playing roots, like deep roots. Say, let them come in the room. They open the doors. Big rush of people. Every kind of looking crazy street characters and everything rushing the venue. As soon as they get in the venue, there's like 2,000 or 3,000 people in there. Herb, roots music. 5 minutes later, you can't even tell who came in and who didn't. You have no idea. Peaceful event, amazing show. And I was like, man, you know what? I'm glad I'm on this team. I feel like I'm on the right team. You know what I mean? I'm on team that guy. Yes. I'm on team. Let's not meet fire with fire. Let's meet fire with a new way of thinking about things. It's a special person. It's a special kind of leadership that can, in a very heated situation, that can think laterally and that can think like, let's just think about this for a second. And kind of go like, I trust what we bring.
Yes.
To be able to, my father has faced down far worse things than this. I have faced down, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And to just trust it and understand that sometimes the sufferers, they need to celebrate too. Mm-hmm. And if you give them an opportunity to, they will. And it will be joyous. And they aren't the enemy. They're our people. And to be able to do that in the face of basically impending violence. I mean, the violence was there already, I mean, I certainly got a fright. I've seen some crazy things in my time, and I was like, whoa, this is spiraling out of control. So that was the kind of moment of affirmation for me. I was like, man, I'm down for these cats. And whatever this dude needs, I'm here for it. Yeah, he's a special cat, man. You get a chance. He needs to be on here, obviously.
I would love that.
Yeah, I know there's
we never had a long conversation, but I told you this, but we were on the same tour circle and like festival circuit as them, maybe a year or two after Jamrock was out in Europe.
Yeah.
And I saw them every day, and he was so good to us and so kind. But he was just being kind to everybody.
Yeah.
But he definitely would recognize us. His people would recognize us, and he would see us. Their people would see us enjoying the show and like bring us up. And I mean, we're going on at 2 p.m, and he's the headliner. But he's just like, no, like like make sure they're comfortable, make sure they're good.
That's how it is, man. That's how he lives, basically. Obviously, we'd all love him to put out more music, because we love the music so much, but he has his own levels that he needs to, and he moves in a way that he feels comfortable with. And you have to respect him for that, And I some of my best work, I mean, I'm happy to say some of my best work, I feel, especially short music films or whatever, I've been with so I'm very happy with that, So very grateful to be a part, one weird oddball Irish guy in a sea of proud Rastas from Jamaica, from the island.
That's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah, it's comedy. I've been lucky, man. You know what I mean? Like I really feel blessed. Like I don't ever want it to sound corny when I say it. if I ever say that, I want people to understand, like, I don't take any of this for granted. I really don't. You know what I mean? Like, there's not many from where I come from. There's not many I've had the opportunity to do even a quarter of what I've been able to do. You know, and I'm not sure why. It sounds funny to me, honestly. I mean, as I get older, I think that's maybe part of getting older is like I find it easier to accept people being complimentary about my work or whatever. Like, but the culture I come from, like, if you even sense somebody's about to come with a compliment, you start deflecting already. You're already,
Right, right,
oh man,
right.
come on, man. You know what I mean? And I'm that if you want to make me uncomfortable, just start saying nice things about my work or nice things about me, and you are immediately, this is going to be a funny conversation I had. But as I get older, I'm happy to, I find it easier to take it. But I mean, that's the point, really, is that it's easier to accept your blessings once you've, you
Yeah,
know,
and once you realize like this is what the creator wrote for me. Like yes, you're right. These amazing things have been gifted to me. And once you understand like this stuff has been gifted to me and like imagine how I feel. You know what I mean? It's like
yeah,
it feels like it feels like well I'm not going to be arrogant by allowing that compliment to reach me. But
of
it's like
course,
the true arrogance is thinking that you're complimenting me. Like you're not you're complimenting something I've been gifted with.
for
So
sure.
you're actually complimenting the gifter, and you know what I'm saying? Like yeah, get in line.
No, that's the
Like
right way to. That's the right way to understand it. You're absolutely
yeah.
right. Yeah, we're just here to, yeah, compliment the gifter. That's a beautiful thing, man. That's a, yeah. I'm gonna keep. I have my little folder of Brother Ali wisdom that I break out from time to time.
Man,
I'll
likewise.
put that one away. You know what I mean? I'll
Yeah,
keep that one.
you're one of the people. It's funny. Like there's certain people. Like a lot of people, I like their stuff, whether it's musicians or artists of any kind, or even speakers or whatever. There's all kind of people that I listen to and I enjoy. I really enjoy their work, but I feel no connection to the person necessarily. Like I
Yeah.
really really love Jay-Z's music. It's really mattered to me in certain times. It's always when I'm aspirational about being an artist. Like if you're aspirational, man, the Jay-Z will like speak to you in that moment. But the times that I've been around him, I'm just like, I'm good. I don't have to, I don't
Yeah.
need. But then there's other people that I see them and I'm like, no, I actually already know them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I always felt that way about you. And I try to never force it. You know what I mean? And I remember when you and Brendan started working, I was like, oh man, yeah, I love that guy's. And so the second you showed up in my neighborhood, it was just like, yeah, of course. Like we've known each other years and
No, and
years.
it fully felt that way. I totally feel the same way. Even all the jokes around, oh, it's around the other corner, it's around the other. Oh man, this party's bringing me to places. This heat, this camera bag suddenly weighs like 100 pounds. Think I'm gonna die. I also need to go to the bathroom, bro. Come on,
Yeah.
but it's all Hey, that's how we get it done out here. And I mean, that's the way we are. Like, in fairness, I've done this with Damien. I've done this with all kinds of people. We end up walking way, 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 way further, and it's just part of the.
It's part of making art. It's
Yeah,
just
part of making
is
art.
like
There's a
there's
little bit of
no
suffering involved, the extra few steps, the extra, that's okay.
yeah.
It gives us
Yeah.
a story to
I
tell
mean, and
afterwards.
and I appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that day in particular, I was like, oh man, I have no. And I noticed that whenever I travel somewhere and you ask somebody like, hey, how do you get to the cafe? How do you get to the laundromat? How do you get to the ATM? They're like, oh, it's just right there. And then you start actually going and you're like, you think it's right there because you walk this every day. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
no, that
it's
joint
a
is.
little different. But it was actually a really, really great. I had a really great time. I loved where we stayed. Actually, in fairness, I didn't. I was comfortable. I did, it wasn't crazy big luxurious place with an amazing view or anything like that. But I felt like I had a proper experience. We were in like a real
Yes,
neighborhood. The
yes.
cat lady was
I
so
mean that
fascinating.
cat lady is well known here. You know what I'm saying? Like
Okay.
yeah,
I showed my
she's
daughter the cat lady. My daughter was bugging on the cat lady. I mean, the next time I got to come bring the fam. I mean, uh,
that'd be dope.
yeah, such an amazing city. But I also think it's not that far away. Like it is from LA, but if I'm in Ireland, it's not. So who
Yeah, if
knows?
you're in Europe, it's 3 hours from anywhere in Europe.
Yeah,
It's only 8 or 9 hours from New York. From LA, it is far though. Yeah,
yeah, from
and
LA.
man, and you like taught your final like day of the semester and then got on a flight hours later.
Hours later, yeah. I'll be honest, I kind of run it like that. Like I like to do that, but that was really pushing it. That was really, but I mean, it was fine. I mean, I was wrecked, but and some other weird jet lag reality, we did something that I love to do, which is I absolutely love to photograph. That photograph you just posted, where we're sitting by you're sitting by the river. I mean, it's like 5 a.m.
Yeah.
The light is just magical.
That dog followed
And
us for,
the dog followed us for miles. And
yeah.
and it was just it was just something very magical about the whole experience,
Well,
really. I mean, it was.
there's a sister who's been like following my work. She's like one of my, she's a friend and like I know her family and like we're from the same community. Sister named Fahima. I posted the photo that you took of me on the ferry
Yeah.
because like I also came out of like I had been super super busy. I hadn't been able to go to the barber. I haven't, and so I'm like scruffy and like we're going across and I had like a fisherman hat on and I'm just like look, and I didn't even realize you were shooting. And I posted. She's like, "That's the best photo that's ever been taken of you."
There was something beautiful about the light that day. It was very, very nice.
She
But
was
I mean,
like, "That's what you actually look like." She said, "That's what you really look like." It's one,
yeah,
because the way that my complexion is and stuff, it's hard, and especially if I'm trying to be in a studio or something like that. She's like, "This is the only picture I've ever seen that like that's what you really look like."
that's a big compliment. I'll take it. And I think that's somehow that's the job, is to reveal a little bit. But then sometimes I'm not sure that that's what everybody wants. I'm not sure that you want that on every project, or not sure, But for me, that's the way I do things. I mean, let's go for a wander and have a chat and see if we can find something. That's the way I've been doing it since I started, and
Yeah.
it's something to do with the notion of let's agree to share an experience, almost, is
Right.
kind of
Yes.
the, because when I remember shooting Jane's Addiction years ago, and the guitar player, I don't remember his name now, but he said, so like, I don't understand, like, what's my motivation here? And I was like, I was, I don't think anybody's ever asked me a question so stupid on a photo shoot, but I was
Like,
like,
how
so
am
your
I supposed to tell
motivation,
you what your motivation
that's what I'm
is?
saying, like, that's
Like,
not
if
my
you don't
job
know
here,
that,
bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, your job. And so I was like, yeah, so your job is like you're a guitar player and like a rock guru and you're at a photo shoot.
Hilarious.
That's your
Amazing.
motivation, bro. So, and he was just all kind of, I could tell he was kind of like, whatever for this dude. But it's not the way I work. It's not the kind of photos I'm interested in making. What I try to be is I try to stay as open to the notion of what's there as I possibly can, and somehow, yeah, juggle a little bit with the idea that we had up front. Like,
Hmm.
okay, it would be great to get this, what Brent has in his mind, to be able to somehow hit a button and then and Brent gets exactly what he had in his mind.
Right.
But even Brent is smart enough to know
Yeah.
that,
Like, yo, we got there and we went with the flow, and this was you know what I
and
mean?
this was
Yeah.
what we got, and it
Yes.
exceeds what we could think of up front.
Hmm.
And that's what I was trying to explain to my kids yesterday. That really is the difference between AI
Yes.
and the actual human experience, is that AI will get you what you thought about beforehand, but it'll be unspecific. It will have no relationship to the actual experience of being there in that moment. And unfortunately, I think for a lot of folks, I think this will be a great tool, and it will allow them to do things that they otherwise might not be able to do, or whatever, which I think is great. But the notion of the specific experience and in a specific time, isn't what it's about, and
Yeah.
it's just not possible for it to be what it's about. That's what I'm about. So, I don't feel threatened by it. I don't feel weird about it. I think it's a tool like everything else, and I think it will change the culture unequivocally. It is already, um, but I don't think it's got anything on what I can get you.
Hmm. Oh man, you've been extremely generous with your time, especially in the middle of all of everything that's going
Yeah,
on, man.
but
And
I'm happy to look. I spent the other day going through a bunch of records and smoking one, and just, I hung out the other night with Eric, and J-Rock came by out of nowhere the other day, and I think we just gotta, we just gotta find a way to realize that those kinds of things and those kinds of personal relations and interactions will help us rebuild our city, and what I'm saying, in better ways as best we can, and you know what I mean, and try and hold up those that have suffered and help them. So
And
we
when you
can't
have
let it.
when you have a bond with somebody like that, like a genuine bond,
Yeah,
when something crazy happens, it just strengthens the bond. It's
for
like, you know
sure.
what I mean? It's
No, for
just like,
sure.
man, we were brothers before, but now, like,
No, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
we lived through that
yeah.
together.
It was humbling to talk to Otis, and to hear him say, "Look, man, I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining. I don't believe in complaining. I don't
That's
believe that
so
that's where we need to
beautiful.
be." you know. And he's like, he's staying at a hotel, and he's like, there's a lot of people from Altadena here, and I'll be just talking to people, and I can't even imagine him talking to random people, but he's been talking to people in the lobby or whatever in the elevators, and he's just like, man, you can't imagine the horror stories, and he's just like, how can I, how can I complain when there's people here that are enduring far far worse. That cat's, he's an extraordinary guy, but he does, he carries a lot of soul and a lot of wisdom, and you know you gotta be like, yeah, that's what's up. That's I could live by that. I'm very happy to be able to share these few moments with you. We always have the old good chats. I
Yeah.
look forward to having a good chat with you at that breakfast place we used to always go to in
Yeah.
your neighborhood, man. My
Yeah.
brother, you know what I mean, with the good juice and
Yeah.
the yeah. I enjoyed those moments very much. We were both absolutely wrecked by 9 o'clock. We've been shooting since 3:30 a.m.
Yeah. No, we
We got a
legitimately
full
were.
day's work done by like 9 a.m. And we're
Yeah.
sitting there like end of the day for us, having like an amazing breakfast. And the
Yeah.
brother is all hyped to be serving us, and there's no one else in there. And yeah,
Yeah. And
I
that
remember
elder guy,
those.
the elder brother that works downstairs is my favorite guy. Like
That's the
the
guy. That's what
yeah.
I'm talking about. Yeah, I love that
Yeah.
guy. I mean, I'll remember that for the rest of my life. That was beautiful. Those were great experiences.
Yeah, man. Come on back. We'll do it some more.
We will, we will for sure. And obviously, come feel free. You know what I mean? We here. You can stay at the Lion Hotel. It's very nice, but we got a bedroom here for you too, man.
Okay.
You
Say
know what I'm
less.
saying?
I'm
Under
actually
this.
gonna be there in I'll be there in like this time next month.
Okay.
Like I
All
have
right.
have a festival. The album comes out on the 14th, and so we're trying to see if we can do a press run kind of thing.
Amazing. Okay. Well, keep me posted.
Yes, sir. All right, brother. I love you, man. Appreciate you.
Indeed. Love you too, brother. Take it easy. Speak soon. Peace.
Special thanks and much love to my dear brother, my friend B plus, Brian Cross, for being so generous with his time and for agreeing to sit with us even while the fires were going on. Like I said, he could have postponed and he didn't. And he was fully present with everything. And we could just talk to him for hours and hours and hours. And, he's got incredible stories. Please go and check out his movies. Check out Keep in Time. Check out Brazil in Time. Check out the books. Check out It's Not About a Salary. Check out all of the stuff that he's just involved with so many incredible projects. It's impossible for me to name. And I don't even know all of them, to be very honest. But man, this is a person who has contributed immensely to this culture, immensely to this community. And he's one of the inextricable, like hip hop wouldn't be hip hop without this guy, especially on the West Coast and especially with the connection with Brazil. I mean, it's just invaluable. So we're so grateful to him and also to his dad for coming out with him, because I think it really deepened the bond with us. When Merce came to Istanbul, he brought his mom with him. You know what I mean? That's very, very special. Nothing like that. So much love. And yeah, if you want to get down the therapy journey, it's betterhelp.com/travelers. I recommend it. I can't recommend it enough. Make sure you check out the new album, Satisfied Soul. The dropping on Mellow Music Group. That'll come out on Valentine's Day. I think it's the best work we've ever done. it's definitely among the best work we've ever done. And it's really, really incredible. Go back if you like, and you can also, we're doing a lot of episodes with the people that partner with us on this album. So you can hear a new episode with Ant. You can hear me processing the Satisfied Soul tour. Now you got these episodes with B+. Man, we got to get Brent Rollins to come on the show. We got to start talking to Mello from Mello Music. We got to start, maybe we get G Coop in here. You know, G Coop is this amazing instrumentalist. We got to get everybody involved with this thing. Maybe we get Sean McPherson in here, who played the bass on some stuff. We already talked to Joe Mabbitt, who mixed the record. But yeah, man, incredible group of people that brings this stuff to life. Satisfied Soul is coming. Go to brotherali.com, sign the mailing list, pre-order the album. I'm going to be signing all of those things when I go back to America this time. Much love. We appreciate you all. We're grateful for you all. We're praying for you all. Shout out to my man, Don Kufi, for editing these episodes. It's not an easy thing to do. He's doing that because he cares about us and the subjects we're talking about, and he cares about you and making this an easy experience for us to be able to invest and also for you to be able to listen. So much love and respect to Don Kufi. Shout out to BK1, who's the producer of this podcast, the guy that makes it all happen, brings it all together. We love you. Like, share, subscribe. All that good stuff. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.